Hello everyone, so this is going to be a bit of like a talking head video. It's just going to be me talking. You can have this on in the background if you want to. I might put some Subway Surfers to keep the Zoomers engaged. I'm joking, I'm going to have some gameplay. Wouldn't be Subway Surfers, haven't played that in years. Anyway, today I'm going to be going into my full story of how I not only came across Linux, but also my full journey, and it goes back a lot further than some people may have thought at first. Initially, it actually started back around 2013, 2014. That was with Steam and them announcing SteamOS and their Steam machines. And I mainly came across it or found out about it because of Alienware announcing the Alienware Alpha, which was a Steam machine, and knew about it because at the time I was using an Alienware gaming laptop. I still have it. It does not work anymore, but I still have it in my drawer for some reason. Yeah, so first heard about it 10, 11 years ago. Didn't really touch it, I just knew it was a thing. But getting on further, in 2016, 2017, around that time, I first used Linux Mint with the Cinnamon desktop environment. I had that on a live USB, used that on my laptop, not to actually do anything with, but more just like, oh, I want to, play around, dabbling with it. I really didn't know much about Linux at the time still. I just knew it was a thing and it looked cool. I wanted to be different, want to try something different. I remember showing it to my IT teacher in class actually, because our school network had you had to install like a driver or something. It was really weird to essentially stop people from going to websites and stuff. And of course it didn't work on Linux, and I just went to my teacher like, "Oh, sir, the laptop doesn't connect to the internet." He's looking and he goes, "What is this?" I'm going, "Oh, it's Linux." He goes, "Oh, that's cool." And he goes, "All right, get back to work." I'm like, "Okay." Yeah, that was my first encounter. A little funny thing. I didn't really know much, but it was cool. It was the first time trying it. I didn't have any issues with it. But after that, it was more like in 2019, so post school now. I tried Ubuntu, which has, which is most people's usual first into Linux is either Ubuntu, Debian, or Mint. Mine was Mint, and then I went to into Ubuntu. And Ubuntu, again, super stable distro. Tried that for a little bit in a virtual machine, and again, it uses apt the same package manager, so already knew a little bit of knowledge about that, but I really didn't know the whole thing about how desktop environments work, so I thought like, each distro has its own unique look or spin, or I didn't know how modular Linux was at that point. Still didn't really fully know what I was getting into. But again, I'm still not really seriously getting into Linux at this point. I was just, having a bit of fun with it. But later on, back in 2020, I heard about Pop! OS. Thanks to Linus Tech Tips and Anthony. I think her name's now Emily on that channel. But yeah, they started bringing up a bit more Linux talk and stuff outside of servers, mainly coming into the Linux for desktops at home, the desktop usage of Linux. And I saw that and I was like, all right, well, this is something else I'm going to pop in a virtual machine and use. And so much better than regular GNOME. I love that they have dash to dock. The dock should be honestly a standard thing at the bottom. Again, coming from Windows, even a Mac has a dock at the bottom. I don't know why GNOME's default is not to have a dock, but that's the way that they handle it. Again, more just using a virtual machine. I'd still never run Linux on hardware besides a live USB yet. But around 2021, that's when Linus Tech Tips finally went ahead and they did their Linux challenge. And again, that's when they used Pop! OS. Unfortunately, Linus's machine broke with Pop! OS because of a bug with Pop! OS at the time. So he went with Manjaro, and Luke at that time, he went with Cinnamon, which again, I've previously used. I did actually try to use it on hardware at one point. I think it was actually in 2018. I've actually missed that point. In 2018, I tried to use it. Did not work on hardware because at the time I'd recently got a 2080 Ti, and the drivers weren't there for it, so I couldn't get that to work. So that was another thing that got me away from Linux for a while. But in 2021, I first ran Linux on on hardware on my main machine with Pop! OS, and it was a great experience in 2021. You know, I ran quite a few games and stuff. You know, Proton has come miles since then, but yeah, that was the first time I ran it on my main bare metal on my machine, and great distro. Pop! OS made by System 76 with their custom GNOME at the time. Yeah, great experience. Again, I've only had great experiences so far with Linux, and it was good. I think it was around this time in 2021, I also experimented with Kali Linux, you know, the hacker distro, in a virtual machine, because one of my friends was studying cybersecurity at the time, and you know, I knew a bit more about Linux than he already did, so he kind of was like, oh, I don't know how to do this thing on Kali Linux. I was like, alright, I'll install Kali Linux in a virtual machine so I can use my knowledge to try and work out what he needed to do, because he'd never touched Linux, to my knowledge, at that point in time. Yeah, that was, again, my prior knowledge that, again, I didn't have much of, was still viable to help my friend that needed a bit of that. And yeah, so moving into 2022, this is when I first tried to actually daily drive Linux. So I have a second computer at my father's place, which is not my primary machine, but it is a relatively powerful gaming machine. I installed Pop! OS on that because Pop! OS, again, is still a great distro for NVIDIA users, because getting NVIDIA to work on Linux is so annoying, but it's come such a long way. But you'll also notice in 2022 I actually did 2 videos on Linux, and that was on that machine. I did a video about Fortnite. It doesn't work on Linux anymore. And also running Xenia, which is a 360 emulator. And I daily drove that for about a month and a half, 2 months, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I learnt a lot during that time. The thing that dragged me back out of Linux at that point was kernel level anti-cheats. That's why I stopped using Linux on that machine and went and reinstalled Windows 10. Because it's just a pain. But I wanted to see it succeed so badly that year, because mainly with the Steam Deck releasing, I was like, this is the year of gaming on Linux, this is the year of the Linux desktop. No. No, it wasn't. But it was, again, me trying to see, test the waters, see how it went, and it was a fun time. It's only been fun so far. Until 2023. I went and tried my first Arch-based distro. I went with Manjaro. That was not a good idea. I had to reinstall Manjaro, I think 3 times. It was bad. I ran it on this machine, my main machine, on a separate SSD. I've never killed Windows on this machine. I still have a Windows drive because the things that still don't work just yet. But I haven't touched Windows on this machine for longer than an hour in the last 4 months. Or no, sorry, the last 3 and a bit months. Not 4 months yet. The last 3 and a bit months. But getting back to Manjaro, do not enable the Arch user repository, the AUR. It breaks Manjaro. I didn't even know the difference between Manjaro and Arch at the time. I was like, oh yeah, it's an Arch-based distro, AUR. I can get all the user-made packages, and it'll be great. No, the AUR does not work great on Manjaro, and since I've learnt, it's actually very not recommended. But Manjaro doesn't disclose that, do they? So yeah, Manjaro actually almost killed my enjoyment for Linux, and it was like, I'm done. But thankfully, earlier this year, a couple of months ago now, Microsoft made their big hurrah into the AI space and go, hey, we're gonna get this thing called Recall and spy on everyone that uses Windows. I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. No thank you. I don't want, hackers, if I install the wrong piece of software, I might have actually installed a virus, they can pull all those screenshots. Oh no, there's my credit card details. So no thanks, Microsoft. I don't want spyware. And so I went back to trying Pop! OS again on this machine. And again, Pop! OS has just been a great fallback for me every time. It's a stable distro. It has an NVIDIA drivers out of the box. it's just perfect. It's great for a beginner that wants to just get into gaming easy on Linux. You just want a game machine that's stable. That's it. Just go with Pop! OS. I can't say anything else. But then I was like, I want to get a bit more experimental since I know Linux has developed so well since then. I put Arch on my secondary PC at my dad's for a little bit on a secondary drive, and actually setting up Arch is not as hard anymore since it has the install script. I got it set up and running with KDE, and it was very usable for the few hours I tried it. Getting a video installed is probably as hard as getting a video to be installed in Fedora, so it's actually not terribly difficult anymore. But I just had, I was getting struggled with trying to work out codec packs, fonts, because I couldn't see Japanese characters, I couldn't see basically anything that is a non-Latin font. So anyway, that was fun, that was something new. And then back here to my main machine, I came across a YouTuber called Matt's Creative. I already mentioned him in my my first Linux series out of all these recently, when I first ditched Windows on this PC entirely. Matt's Creative. He recommended Fedora, and he was using Fedora at the time. He's now using CashOS, I believe. But he was using Fedora a couple of months ago, and that's when I was like, alright, I want to try this Fedora. I've heard of Arch, I've heard of Debian-based stuff, I've heard of Fedora, but I don't want to touch Fedora, mainly because of the name around it. You know, the whole Fedora mod thing and, you know, nerdy thing. I was like, alright, I'm just going to touch it. I've got to try Fedora, and it was great. The first time I had issues trying to get the NVIDIA drives installed, because NVIDIA and Linux is a mess sometimes. I tried to do it through the Discover app on KDE Plasma, and it didn't turn out well. I had issues. So then I went back to the drawing board and found out how to do it, have to get RPM Fusion and everything installed through the terminal. That worked easier for me. I don't know if I did something wrong, if I misread something, but yeah, that was probably my mistake, because it's meant to be able to be possible through the Discover app, but whatever. After that, I then heard about Nobara, which was my true first dive into gaming on Linux in the past few months. Nobara is a modified, well, it's a custom version of Fedora, I guess you could say. It's a fork of Fedora designed for gaming, created by the legend Glorious Eggroll, who maintains Proton GE. Great distro. I had no problems with it. I believe that it has slightly better gaming performance over Fedora, but I mean, it's great. But I wanted to make sure I had a distro that I knew was going to stay around in the future. I mean, I don't see Nobara disappearing anytime soon, but I wanted a distro that I know is going to be around for a long time. And I saw Fedora. I was like, all right, I'll fall back on Fedora. It's a very stable distro in my experience. It's quite a rolling release. It's quite up there with the latest stuff, but I've had no problems so far, except a few KDE Plasma bugs, but KDE's KDE. And yeah, it's been great. Fedora is very stable. I haven't seen any issues. I've also am still running the CashOS kernel for Fedora. I don't know how much of a performance uplift I'm getting with it, but it's doing me. People say it's very minor, it's mainly just like the small performance uptakes. You notice, maybe not, but they're there. But yeah, that's pretty much my full Linux journey. I've been through quite a few different distros, and it's been a long time coming that I knew. For years and years, I just wanted to get rid of Windows. Windows is not bad. It's a great operating system. It's just that Microsoft does stupid things, and they're trying to shoot themselves in the foot. So where do I take my Linux journey here from now? Well, I've had quite a few people in the comments recommend me NixOS. I haven't looked into it. I have heard about it quite a few times in the past, and I've heard NixOS is pretty good. I thought it was Arch-based. Apparently not. Apparently it's its own distro. And speaking of Arch, am I going to be dropping Fedora for Arch? I don't think so, mainly because Arch is way more customizable than Fedora and any other distros. You are your own distro maintainer, which sounds amazing. I can do whatever I want with it. But I'm also terrified because I'm worried that I might break something too with that. So it's possible I might do a switching to Arch video in the future. I have no plans for it now, but there's always a possibility. Or even switching to CacheOS, which is Arch-based. I believe it is better for performance over Arch. There's probably some performance benefits to CacheOS, but again, if I'm not going to do Nabara, I'm probably not going to do CacheOS. And I've got a couple of little notes here. Adobe software. I wish I could get it to run on Linux. Apparently people do have ways of getting it to run, but I'm honestly getting pretty comfortable with DaVinci Resolve and GIMP over Adobe Premiere and Photoshop, so I've probably already replaced those already in my workflow of what I do. So do I need to go back to Adobe? Probably not. I'm still faster using Adobe software because I've been using it for so long. We've got another note here. Anti-cheat. GDDR5 and Apex Legends as of just a few days ago. That's a big blow to the Linux gaming community, but I mean, there's not much we can do. We're just going to hope that eventually there is a better solution for anti-cheat, maybe even a kernel module, which I know people wouldn't be happy with. Maybe there's a gaming kernel that if you use Steam's like, hey, would you like to install this kernel? It has better compatibility with games because of anti-cheat and stuff. I wouldn't be against that. I don't think Valve would really put in the money and time for it, but if they did, I would be more than happy to have a kernel that I use for gaming and a kernel that I use daily. I'd probably just use the gaming kernel because why not? And also, speaking of desktop environments from before, Cosmic DE, Cosmic Alpha 3 has apparently just dropped like a day or two ago. I might look into it. I actually have already installed it on my system. I haven't played around with it yet. Again, it's still alpha software, so I'm probably going to have some issues and bugs with it. But I'm definitely going to look into that. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I can mainly remember. I've got some notes here that have been keeping me on track for this video, but that's pretty much the main parts of my Linux journey and the main parts that I remember. It's probably a lot longer than most people thought. I didn't just walk into Linux going, oh, you know, screw Windows, I don't like Recall, I'm picking up Linux. No, I've been watching it for quite a while. I mean, my first actual usage of it was about 7-8 years ago, and it's been great. Everything apart from Manjaro, but that was my own fault technically. It's been good, so I'm not walking in blind. I knew what I was coming into. Except for gaming. Gaming's still a bit of a mess, but oh well. I've got to stand by. I've got to be part of the demographic and, you know, boost that. What is it like? What do you call it? The percentage of users on that OS. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching this or listening to this mainly. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I think I just hit 1K subscribers today. I'm going to double check that after this recording. I don't know what I'm going to do for 1,000 subscribers yet. But yeah, thank you, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.